One thing I see new investors struggle with all the time when it comes to vacation rentals is the common expenses. Really, until you've done it, you don't know what all those common expenses are, and there is a lot of them. So today I'm going to dive into the common expenses for condos and homes and how they may differ between the two. So I'll first start out by mentioning, obviously you're going to have your mortgage, property taxes, insurance. Those things are a must. They are going to vary a bunch between condos and homes and price points and those different things. So I'm not going to exactly go over those today, but I do want to touch on some of the other common expenses there are. So starting with homes, the utilities is the first thing we obviously think of. This is a pretty obvious one, but obviously your water, electricity, gas, if you have that, it's not very common. Trash pickup can be another common one. There's also vacation rental specific trash companies that you can pay a monthly fee to, and they'll come take your trash for you. So you don't have to worry about that between guests and all that. And then you can also obviously have your streaming services and internet. All right, maintenance and repairs is the next one, and it's a big one. It encompasses a lot. And I tell our owners to budget about 7 to 8% of your income on this each year. You know, stuff this can include is lawn care. It can include pool maintenance. It can include landscaping. Pest control could be another one. HVAC servicing is a common one. HVAC is probably the most common maintenance expense we see across everything we manage. And I'd say that's true almost anywhere in the country. And then a lot of general repairs, right? Small handyman type stuff. Hopefully you don't have to have something larger like a leak or replacing an AC unit. But if you budget properly, that percentage I mentioned earlier, it should encompass just about everything. One thing I would recommend too, just as a pro tip, if you have a larger home, is an annual inspection at the end of the year. We at MyBeach Rentals do this for some of our homeowners, but usually those larger homes have a lot of moving parts and a lot of different systems doing a lot of different things, and stuff just breaks down. And if it's not your personal home, you're not there all the time, obviously, stuff's going to happen and you're probably going to miss it. So I think it's great if you maybe even hire an inspector to do this, a professional inspector, just to give you a report. It might cost a couple $100, but it could definitely save you from a big expense down the road. Furnishings and interior upkeep. So obviously at the beginning, you're going to have a furnishing expense if it's an empty home or it's a brand new build home. If you don't have that, there's still going to be ongoing upkeep of the furniture you have and also improvements that you might make, right? So maybe adding a new TV or adding new appliances, right? These constant upgrades, they need to happen, especially in vacation rentals, just because it's so competitive. You're also going to have stuff like kitchen inventory that needs to be replaced. This is a common one. Guests usually typically break stuff as they're staying, and it's just one of those things you'll have to constantly furnish and update. Cleaning and turnover expenses. So the guest technically pays the cleaning fee, but you do want to keep that in mind when you're budgeting, because at the end of the day, the guest is looking at their bottom line. What are they ultimately paying for? So you need to have a competitive cleaning fee. Each year as well, we would recommend doing at least one, maybe two deep cleanings. Typically after 30 to 40 reservations, you just need a deeper clean where the cleaners can spend a little bit more time. Normally what we see is that's about double the normal cleaning price. And then also replacing towels and linens is very common. At MyBeach Rentals, we just require the owner to furnish us with the first set. And then after that, we'll replace everything and keep up good quality for any sets that need to be replaced or replenished after that. But that can be a big expense too. I'd budget a couple $100 each year just for your linens, comforters, towels, all that sort of stuff. Now we're getting into some of the smaller stuff, but it is still an expense you want to account for. So again, if you're using a property manager like us, this may not apply to you, but software, think about your property management system. Maybe you have a lock system, your pricing system. These are all separate things, and you're going to want to account for those prices. Licensing and permits is another one. So it's really not too expensive, but North Myrtle Beach, for example, you might have to spend $100 to $150 on a license each year. Security and monitoring. I see a lot of people do the Ring cameras. That's a common thing. There's also some cool devices out there. One's called a Stay-Fi. We use that for email collection. Another one's called a Minute device. That's more of a noise monitoring / smart smoke detector. So it'll send you notifications if guests are exceeding the noise limit or they're smoking in the unit. It'll send you live notifications. So if you want to get those items, there's typically a monthly fee. Although it's small, again, I just wanted to cover kind of everything that you could come across when investing in a short-term rental. Now switching over to condos, a lot of it stays the same, but there are some differences. So I just wanted to go over those real quick. HOA fees, obviously that's something you just have with condos. You want to know exactly what that covers. It may not cover Wi-Fi or it may not cover water. You know, sometimes it covers different insurances. So just understanding that. The nice thing about HOAs is it will remove a lot of the, not remove, but it just covers the cost of a lot of those exterior maintenance items that I mentioned for houses. So keep that in mind. Very minor, but I will say such a headache is guests keeping track of like parking passes, pool bands, key cards, those sort of things. I would say every quarter, we're probably replenishing that stuff. Minor, but maybe budget $100 to $200 for those things. And then the final thing that I'll end on with the condos is just special assessments. They really suck, but you definitely want to get an understanding of those from your realtor and kind of the past history of assessments that condo or condo building has had. They can sometimes be a lot of money. So you just want to prepare for that, maybe even consider budgeting for that as income comes in, maybe setting a little bit aside for, you know, that rainy day fund where assessment could come. But that's about it. A lot of the other expenses are about the same for condos. So that kind of covers all of the menacing lists of expenses that are out there. There's definitely some other little specific things that we could dive into, but if you have any specific questions, reach out to us. You can find us on mybeachrentals.com. You can also give me a call. My number is 843-516-4000. Maybe we'll like put it right here or something, but I'd love to talk to you more. We can also give you projections on revenue so you can kind of compare what the expected revenue is minus a lot of these expenses we went over. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, put a comment below too if there's anything you want me to cover in the future, and I'll put it together. Thanks and have a good one.